There's two sides to every coin. Then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks. And some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fist at the clouds and cry. Get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have a meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. 'Cause this is my hometown, so back down, sports clown. It's all just a game, and it's the last down, let down, cowtown. I said it's all just a game. I give the touchdown, the rundown, the lowdown. 'Cause it's over the game. Gonna crack down, and shut down, the sundown. I said it's all just a game.
Nothing like somebody clearing their throat before they come on the air. That's professional. Hey, kids, happy Monday to you. Welcome to the show. I am me, you are you. He is Jack, by the way, which we are eagerly anticipating at some point adding a camera so he can be part of this, because he's a huge part of this. Feel free to leave comments, turn the music up, whatever you want. It's that kind of show today. Leave comments and questions. Jack will comb through them, pick out the best ones. That feels like something at some point we're going to have to get a sponsor for and some sort of award for, right? Like question of the day. Has that ever been done in sports talk radio or anything like a question of the day or a text of the day? That seems new, cutting edge to me somehow, Jack, that we would be starting something that has never been done before.
Yeah, I think we would.
I think so. That's this program. It's never been done before. None of it. Coming up on the show today, by the way, we are an inclusive program. Everybody is welcome here, and we're broadcasting live from Treaty 7 territory. That is important because Saturday, this coming Saturday, is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I'm not sure if everybody's seen it, but the Stampeders have a new look for this Saturday. We'll get to that a little later on. Ryan Pike from Flames Nation. It's happened again. We're not even in 30 seconds in, and the light's out. Is it a battery, or is this one?
Yeah, it's just these batteries.
Yeah.
I don't know where they bought them. Like someone must have had a free sign outside their house for these batteries, and that's the ones we got.
I don't know. They might be from my phone because they last about as long as my phone. Poor Jack. Like I say, I just want a camera on Jack and how much, like, nobody should have to work as hard to do 2 hours of podcasting as Jack does, but we'll get it fixed. Anyway, I digress. I mentioned Ryan Pike's going to join us from Flames Nation, the managing editor. Today is his mailbag column. We'll get to the results last night as well. You know him, you love him from Flames Nation Citizen, which will drop a new episode on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Lyle Peterman in studio today. So back to two guests. I don't know how regularly we'll be doing that. But speaking of regular scheduled guests, this is our final week with no Wednesday show. We are the last of all of the entertainment options, I suppose, to launch their fall schedule. We are back to 3 shows a week starting next week. Peter Marr will be joining us next Wednesday. Eric DeHatchuk will join us a week from Friday. And, of course, Pike is our mainstay on Mondays. So we're getting the band back together. And it seems apropos. Last night at the Saddle Dome, they decided, why not? We may as well start the preseason. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the buzzkill. I don't want to be the know-it-all. I don't want to be that guy. It was what I liked about last night in a 10-0 win over Vancouver. Well, let's first of all deal with the Canucks. That's the Canucks. That's what you get from Vancouver during the preseason. They barely ice a team legal. They have to have 8 players that are considered NHL veterans. They barely did that. Now, having said that, the goaltender that the Flames obliterated was I believe the MVP of the World Championships for Latvia. So he came in with a little bit of hell. He had Canucks equipment, so it wasn't like they were throwing, an extra body in there. But if this was a rodeo, if last night's game was a rodeo, the Flames would have got a reride. That's how it would have worked. The Cowboy was really good. The Bull was god awful, just awful. Having said all of that, I have done this long enough to have seen god-awful Bulls come into the Saddle Dome and stacked NHL teams barely squeak by or go through the motions. I was encouraged by the fact that it looked like what it was. An NHL caliber squad, because they're the home team, versus an ECHL caliber squad, or barely an AHL caliber squad. That's probably not fair. An AHL caliber squad. You should beat them, and you should beat them handily, and they did beat them handily. My barometer when it comes to this club and the preseason is the wins don't matter. The losses do. The wins don't matter. The losses do. If Calgary had lost that game 10-0 last night to that Vancouver team, we would have literally started this program with me setting my hair on fire, right? That's how this program would have began. Nobody in Vancouver, Rick Tocchet, Patrick Alvin, Jim Rutherford, all the way up to the owner of the team, Aquilini. There isn't a single person who lost sleep about last night, nor should they. 5 Calgary Flames players recorded 3 or more points. That's what you want to see. You want Huberdeau to score. You want Kadri to get points. You want to see that. This, to me, they did what a good team is supposed to do. But that's it. Now it starts anew tonight with the famed doubleheader against the Kraken. Seattle here and Calgary in Seattle as well. You split up the squads. Good-looking rosters. I think Seattle's sending slightly better. Their goaltending is better here tonight. I don't know how much the rest of the team is better, but their goaltending is better. But let me deal with the one. There was a couple things I took away from that game. Klapka. Am I saying that right? Klapka?
I believe so.
Adam Klapka?
Klapka, yeah.
That's a big dude.
He is a big dude.
He could play forward for most NBA teams. That's a big dude. I knew he was big, and I saw him in the American League, but man, he looked big. He can move. He's a big dude. But let's deal with Matt Coronado. I sent out a tweet last night. Could care less about the hat trick, the opposition, the fact that it's her. Dude has an elite shot, an elite release. And Jack, we banned predictions around here, and rightfully so. But I don't feel as silly and as outrageous as the one that I did talk about a couple weeks ago, which is if he makes the team and things break the right way, this guy could be, a big-time goal scorer. Like, he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate kind of thing. Not saying he will be, but he could be. I feel a lot better that Ryan Huska has actually taken the mantle a little bit, because who did Huska drop last night? In the post game, who did he bring up and who did he mention?
It was Osterley, wasn't it?
No. Former Flame Brett Hull.
Oh,
when
okay,
talking about Coronado, I'll get to, you're right. No, sorry, you are right. You are right. But when he was asked about Coronado, he talked about the release, and he mentioned, like he said, the Brett Hulls of the world, not comparing him to Brett Hull, but saying the Brett Hulls of the world have the ability to shoot that puck from anywhere in any position. And that's awfully heady praise, but it comes from the coach. The coach has been a bit of a revelation. He's not chewing on words. He's not angry. He seems to smile a bit. He seems to engage. It's one game. I will test, and I know he watches, so he'll do some homework on this. I am going to test one Ryan Pike when he joins us. I am trying to think of the last Flames rookie that came in and really, really wowed a training camp forward. I think Gaudreau and Monahan had good camps. But I want to say this is almost like Chuck Kobasu. You remember Chuck Kobasu when he was in Kelowna and he came here and then he had that great training camp and that kind of rolled Chuck Kobasu into his NHL career. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I think so.
Chuck Kobasu?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking about this too. Like it has seemed like a long time since there's been a young player that the fans are like everyone's super excited about Coronado.
Well, Gaudreau.
Yeah,
Gaudreau. And I think
it was a long time ago.
Is it? It's 10 years ago. It's 10 years ago. Right? It's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. That is, Sam Bennett, Berchi, who we had on a little while ago. These guys came to camp, but it was more like they got an assist. They were on the power play. They didn't look out of place. Dude scored 3 times against the guys probably in the American Hockey League, but that's what he's supposed to do, right? So I think it's warranted. Like I say, score only matters if you lose in those games. Couple things. Pospisil. A couple years ago when Stockton played here during COVID, Martin Pospisil saw him a little bit and then he got hurt. And that's kind of been a thing that has dogged Pospisil a little bit, is that, he hasn't been able to necessarily stay healthy. And that's not his fault. Injuries happen. He's a guy that I really noticed. I really liked him a lot when I saw him in the American Hockey League because he's a disturber and he's got some skills, but he really, really, really likes getting underneath people's skin. Didn't see that last night from him. Hope he gets a little bit more of an opportunity. But now with Pelche and now with Coronado and now with Zary and now, with this year's crop, Hanzik and others, the Pospisils and Emilio Petersons of the world, this is, and I would almost say Adam Ruzicka. Now, Ruzicka had 3 assists last night and was +3. I would defer to those who were in the building. I hate scouting through television. I think television's, you miss some stuff. And they were up so early, so much. God bless Shorthouse and Tomlinson on the broadcast on Sportsnet. They were really, it's 5-0 for Vancouver. They were really trying to grasp. Wow, they're out shooting Calgary now. Yeah, but you're up 5-0. Exactly how early? I mean, they just kept scoring. So I don't know. Was Ruzicka noticeable last night? Yeah, he had 3 points, but he's going to need to do more. Serengovich, am I saying that right? Serengovich, yeah. Serengovich played up with Lindholm and Huberdeau. Huberdeau had a pair of goals. Serengovich, Lindholm had nothing. Again, they're veterans. They've been around the league. I'm not worried about that. Kadri's engaged. You have to say Kadri's engaged. And you brought it up, Jack. Like, good on Jordan Osterley. Like, he's been in the league. He's new here. Oliver Shillington's not around. There's space on the blue line. He just went out and played. He got an ugly goal. He got a goal, whatever you want to say. He was noticeable. Coach called him out afterwards. Outstanding. But will he have that same impact game 7 of the preseason? That's really what you got to look for. But Dennis Gilbert banged up. See if he comes back tonight. Or he's on the roster, but I don't think he's playing. I think Ryan actually reported that. So the blue line, becomes a bit of an issue now if Gilbert's hurt, if Shillington's not ready to go. Osterley taking that opportunity. We will see. Vladar is the goalie, and at least the goalie of record in or name in Seattle. Wolf will get the start here tonight, by the looks of it. So should be good. Markstrom, he got a shutout. 40 minutes, shut the door. But I think we're all, again, very aware of who and what the Vancouver Canucks were last night. and that's preseason hockey. Nobody's going to give you the best. You're not going to see McDavid and Draisaitl on the road. Or if you do, it'll be one game. You're not going to see Hughes and Pedersen and the rest of the gang from Vancouver on the road unless it's for one game near the end. So take it for what it's worth. I liked it. It's a nice start. What I'm really happy about is the fans of this team. And this is the thing that I remember so often, especially doing post games, but even after that was, yeah, they won, or geez, they lost. Yeah, but it's just a preseason. I know. At least you went away from the Dome last night entertained. At least you went away from the Dome going, well, it was a bad team they played. They beat them like they were a bad team. And that doesn't happen very often around here. We shall see as the preseason goes on. And 24 hours from now, they'll be almost halfway through the preseason because they'll have 3 games done. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. A couple other things that I want to touch on. Let's go to the good and the bad with the Stampeders. Oh my gosh. At home, Saturday afternoon, turnovers killed them. Just could not do enough. Montreal 28, Calgary 11. The Stamps dropped to 4-10, 4 games remaining. It's over. I think we all know it's over. I guess you are now into evaluation mode. Live from 55 is up today, and I know Ian Busby was on with Danny Austin, and I would talk. I would go listen to that for a far more in-depth version of what's going on with the Stampeders. But with 4 games to go, I think you have some questions. I think. I think it's fair, and Danny may jump down my throat on this, because I know he gets a little upset in this when we automatically defer to the quarterback. I think you have to have an honest, open conversation about whether or not Jake Maier has taken enough steps forward. What does he do in the last 4 games? How does he lead? All those sort of things. I have no concern about the general manager. I have no concern who is also the head coach. Would not surprise me if we see a Mark Killam leave the organization to go somewhere as a head coach. I think that's a conversation that's been had, and I'm only saying that because he deserves the opportunity. He's earned that opportunity. So with that said, Calgary back at it on Saturday, and this is the exciting part for me. We also had the unveiling of a Truth and Reconciliation logo for the Stampeders. It's designed by Jacob Alexis and Richard Running Rabbit, who are the men responsible for the iconic Every Child Matters jersey with the Calgary Hitmen, which I'm very, very, very proud of, and had a small part to play in that. Also, this past year, the Calgary Flames wore a warm-up jersey honoring the Treaty 7 Nations, had a ceremony prior to the game, and that was a version of Blasty as the logo there, and now this one. So this is the iconic Stampeders logo, but again, and I love this graphic. You get it on the Stampeders. It walks you all the way through it. Blackfoot people are a horse people. So, and they're part of Treaty 7. They're not all of Treaty 7, but very much taking the iconic pony and adding the right accoutrements to it. Very excited to see what the Stampeders have up their sleeves in terms of the ceremonial component of this. There is a braid that has been included on the helmet, which I think is very, very important. All of this goes on Saturday, which is Truth and Reconciliation Day, which has become a very important date on the calendar. So I do tip my hat to Dr. Tyler White, friend of the program, former guest of the program, and I'm sure he'll be a guest again in the future. He also has his fingerprints on this, and if I'm not telling tales out of school, or we can just keep it between us people here on this show, he's been sharing bits and pieces of this project with me for a while now, and he's very, very proud of it. And they should be. I thought that the Elks did a really nice job earlier in the year, and I've met that artist up there too. And I thought they did a really nice rendition. And I really, really like this one too. And I know that our good friend, Vice President of Retail and our wrestling insider, Brent Gibbs, they have merchandise, sweatshirts and things, so that if you do like this and you want to support it, proceeds going to help Treaty 7 charities. You can certainly pick that up at the Stamp store. So kudos to the Stampeders. The other football team in Calgary, the Cavalry, they did it. Arguably one of the most successful franchises since the launch of the CPL. And they added to that with another regular season win. So the Canadian Premier League Shield, winners of the regular season. And I know that we're a culture that it's what have you done for me in the playoffs, but football, and I'm going to call it that because that's what it is, across the world has always done a better job of honoring, I think, the accomplishments, the different tournaments, the different shields or the different cups or the different derbies. And in this case, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and his team have done an amazing job. They shut out York on the road 1-0. They are 7 points clear. What is this? Where did this come from?
We found this on Twitter this morning. It's Tommy.
Oh, no, I know exactly who it is. I just wondered if Tommy had sent this in. No. My assumption is Tommy has this in his house, right? When you go in, this is what you see.
Yes.
This is the gaffer. Does he know this? I wonder if he knows this. Which did we find it on their Twitter or a Twitter?
I think it was just some random Cavs fan on their Twitter there. So
I love that. I love that. Oh my! So the next time we get Tommy on, that's what we won't even show him. He can talk underneath that. That's fantastic. I love it. Good job. So Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and the Cavalry, home and clear. They have won the regular season, but they will tell you. I mean, here I am, pontificating about the meaning of regular season titles, et cetera, et cetera. They'll tell you that they want to win the league. But I believe this now opens them up to CONCACAF club team championships. That I believe they now represent the CPL in some CONCACAF events next year. So we might see some real crazy wild teams from Central America or South America up here playing the Cavalry and home to homes. That I think is rather exciting. Briefly, do need to touch on this. I should have started. We always should start the show in a somber mode and recognize those who are suffering. So all of you Denver Bronco fans, I'm feeling for you. Wow. The first time since the 60s that a team has put 70 points up on the board in a regular season game in the NFL. Not since Washington did it way back in the 60s. Miami, they did it. They beat the living bejesus out of the Denver Broncos, who are now 0-3. It was a weird day in the NFL, but I think every once in a while you get those. There were no shortage of games that weren't really close. And maybe one of the most shocking, at least to me, was the Texans going in and beating Jacksonville in Jacksonville by 20 plus points. Dallas comes crashing back down to earth, losing to Arizona. But Miami, holy crap. You remember when they were going to get Tom Brady because they didn't trust Tua?
Yep.
And then they were going to, weren't they in on, well, maybe they'll get Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they'll get, and I know 70 points isn't just on one guy. I know it's not on just Tua. But I sure hope they take care of this guy better than they did last year, man. He's legit.
He's awesome.
Isn't he?
He's got to be the front runner for MVP right now.
Right?
I assume.
I think so. But they were trying to run him off.
Yeah, they were. They wanted to bring in Brady. They wanted to bring in Sean Payton to coach.
That's right.
Mike McDaniel is awesome coach. I love him.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, full marks. I guess legitimately between them and San Francisco right now.
Yeah, those are probably your
top two. I know there's some probably fans of other teams that felt like they should. I know who's not in that group, Cincinnati.
Who's worse, the Bears or the Broncos? And they play this weekend.
Oh, the Turtle Derby. I think the Justin Fields right now is probably a better option than Russell Wilson, but I wonder if Russell Wilson doesn't have better options than Justin Fields. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same thing there.
An
interesting game. I don't think many people will watch it, but
well, it's not exactly the same, but kind of the same version as the Jets and the Patriots this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Bill Belichick may drop to 0-3, but Zach Wilson's still in the league, so anything can happen. It's, I don't know. It was a fun weekend in the CFL. It was a different weekend in the NFL. For those who partake and those who take a wager, place a wager, whatever. I wonder what this weekend was like for gamblers. I just because of all the blowouts, right? Just because of the Broncos will hold them within 14, right?
And the Cowboys will beat the Cardinals by 14.
Well, exactly, right? It was, hey, listen, those things are absolutely. Oh, and we might be the only sports talk entity in all of North America that didn't lead with this today. But did you see who was at the Chiefs game? Did you see who?
Yeah.
Now, better than that, ask me if I can name a Taylor Swift song, because I don't think I can. But holy cow, say what you will about her, but she commands the attention on social media, doesn't she? Like the minute she appeared on screen, holy cow.
Yeah, and she has just a crazy following. Like I'm sure all her fans are watching this game that have never watched football before just because she's on TV.
Sure.
And they kept showing her like so many times.
Right. Wouldn't you?
I mean,
it's the one. I'm trying to think of the one person that could add eyeballs to an NFL game.
She's definitely one of them.
Right? She's definitely one of them. To your point. Now, is there a connection? This is where I really, the gray beard really kind of suits me for this next question. Is she connected to Travis Kelce? Or was that just somebody's concoction yesterday? Like there's usually and she's, dating. All I know about Taylor Swift is you date her, she dumps you, and then she writes a song about you. Right? Is that not how this works?
Pretty much the story.
Okay. Yeah. So is there a Travis Kelce song on the horizon? Is that what we're thinking?
I mean, yeah, it's safe to assume eventually there will be. Maybe they're life partners. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you see the pictures of them after the game?
No, I didn't. I just saw the one picture of her was a screen capture of her that the TV showed in the booth, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I saw.
There was he was driving around in his old car, hood down, and they were just cruising through Kansas together. I'll try to find this.
Oh, she was with him.
Yeah, after the game.
I was asking you. I thought I didn't know. So that's a legitimate thing.
Oh, they are dating apparently.
They're dating.
Yes, they were
seen
leaving together.
This is why you tune into Just a Game, because you will not get this. Well, you get this everywhere else. Actually, I'm the only person that didn't know it. Okay, so they were cruising around. Okay, so there is a song forthcoming.
Yes.
Okay. You fumbled my heart. There you go. It's a start. Have at her, right? Flea flicker of love. Could you write that? How about that one? Right?
There's lots.
There has to be something about tight end. Anyway, now we've gone officially off the deep end. Yeah. All right. Okay. Back to hockey we go. We will be joined momentarily by Lyle Peterman. He's going to join us. The Alberta Junior Hockey League Showcase is underway in about 5 minutes. Lyle's going to be here in 5 minutes. The showcase itself doesn't start till Wednesday. I don't want anybody running out and getting to Max Bell too early. So Lyle will join us in about 5 minutes. And then coming up, we will check in with Ryan Pike. Flames open the preseason with a 10-0 win over Vancouver. It's easy. Should never lose again. That would be my sentiment to all of this. They played 2 against the Kraken. I don't know. I don't know. It seems a little pointless to rail against this. It seems a little pointless to go, I don't know why they do this. They do it. It used to be the first game, which, okay, I get that. Now it's the second and third game, I guess. As we all know, when it comes to the preseason, it's that fifth, sixth, if you're playing 7 or if you're playing 8, 6, 7. I think it's the penultimate games are the ones where you get the bigger roster. Usually your home game, maybe your final home game or your second to last final home game, you put up your NHL roster, your starter gets a go at it, and away you go. The enthusiasm around this team is infectious right now. It's fun. Lots of smiles, lots of jokes. Saw it again today. Jacob Pelche. Jacob Pelche with the joke. I was confusing it with Poirier. Pelche with the joke today about this coach and the last coach. It's light. It's lighthearted. But don't read too much into it. I guess it would have been the 11-12 season. I think the Flames ran the table, in the preseason, and maybe it was a little later than that. But I thought it was a Brent Sutter team that ran the table in the preseason, and Peter Marr went on to do the NHL Insider and basically said, this bodes well. No Flames team that's run the table on the preseason has never missed the playoffs. And matter of fact, they've, done this, and this, and of course they missed the playoffs that year. So, what you get out of preseason is what you put into preseason. I think the recipe was really laid by Craig Conroy right from day one, from his opening, news conference. It was about letting the young players. He felt like the young players needed opportunities. He's given the young players opportunities. There's, I think, one player on a PTO, but that's an American Hockey League player on a PTO. They put the kids in the roster into the game last night. They put the kids in the game tonight. We got a question asked to us about Adam Ruzicka. Ruzicka's playing, with Kadri and Dubé, and that line combined, if you will, for 9 points last night. Like, put the kids in a position to play. I thought, Coronado found a way to impact the score sheet. I'm excited to see Dustin Wolf. Hopefully he'll get some, a little bit harder work tonight. You have the goaltending one, and we'll talk about it with Ryan, but the goaltending one remains interesting. Is how's that time shift going to split? Markstrom's going to need he's your starter, so he needs whatever he needs to get going, and then Vladar and Wolf get the rest. So be interesting to see, who gets what. I don't know. I guess Vladar you need because he's, you need X amount of NHL or X amount of games going out to Seattle. So I suppose that's why he's going. I'm a little surprised it's not Wolf going the other way, but here we are. And everybody else, by the way, we haven't talked at all about the NHL Global down in Australia, Rod Laver Arena. Split series between Arizona and the Kings. You might have seen some of that on your television really late at night. Clearly the lighting wasn't, perfect down there. Didn't look like an NHL arena from a lighting perspective, but the crowds were awesome. The crowds were into it. A couple of people made the same observation. If you watch that game, it was fun trying to pick out all the jerseys in the crowd, but everybody was represented. There was lots of Flames jerseys down there. But I have a sneaking suspicion that you're going to see the NHL back in Australia. Now, the test will be a little bit like when the Flames went to China. What's the return like? What's it like to come back? How quickly can you get back up to speed? How does it impact the rest of your? That's the part of this that I think we have to watch for, is that teams that come back from even the European vacations or trips, whatever you want to call them, they squeeze in there, and if they come back and they lose, it wasn't a great thing. If they come back and they win, nobody talks about it. But Australia is a long trip. The two of the teams that would have been the shortest for were Arizona and Los Angeles, yet they still had to travel. It was, I thought, odd that they took as many, the announcer, at least over my television, it sure seemed like he was Arizona's announcer or LA's announcer. Didn't seem like they used locals. But that said, it was another opportunity as NHL continues to wave its flag across the world. All right, coming up in a little while, Ryan Pike, managing editor of Flames Nation, will join us. But right now, courtesy of our good friends at Ski Cellar Snowboard, we should do this. We should look at the Ski Cellar Snowboard website because it's skicellarsnowboard.com, and there's lots on there. They'll remind you that their Boness and McLeod stores are now open. The 17th Avenue and Winsport stores will open a little bit later on in the fall, but they've got all kinds of deals right now on boots, on skis, on jackets. That's the other part of this. Winter's right around the corner, and boy, there's some really cool looks for 23-24. Snowboards in there as well. They've been an institution in the city of Calgary for 76 years, soon to be 77 years. There's nobody you can trust more when it comes to skis, snowboards, and snow skating than Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. Very pleased to have join us a member of the Flames Nation family. Lyle Peterman is here. Flames Nation Citizen will drop at 9:00 on Wednesday. But welcome, Lyle. You are here with wearing another hat today. Now, help me. Okay, with a golf shirt. You're part of the Calgary Canucks organizing committee for the AJHL showcase.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of chairing this committee.
Okay,
in the last few months here. Well, I guess close to a year since we got awarded the event, so it's coming.
It is. These are new for me, at least in my experience in junior A. We didn't have these in the SJHL or the AJHL in my time, but that's decades ago.
Yeah.
Tell me, for those in the audience that may not know, give us the rundown on what a showcase is.
It's essentially a regular season tournament. So 16 games, 16 teams all in one city. Gives a chance for scouts to early on in the year fly in from across North America. We have every NHL team represented, most of the big schools as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great chance for fans too to meet, see all their teams up close, and for the city of Calgary really to showcase the league. It's a league that's been here for a long time, but sometimes doesn't quite get the same attention. So it's kind of cool to showcase that. Not to mention people in the city come from across the province. So maybe you're from Fort McMurray, come see your old team from your old town, that kind of thing as well.
You mentioned is it a real tournament or is it just regular season games? That's the part that confuses me.
It is a regular season.
Okay.
They call it a tournament in a sense because kind of that style, but it's.
But there's no championship.
No,
right?
There's not.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Everyone gets a home and an away game, so 2 games each, and they get to stay in Calgary for the night, get to go experience some NHL hockey, that kind of thing. So, kind of a bit of a tournament format for these kids, but both just regular season. The champion gets 4 points.
So tell us a little bit about what goes into bringing this to Calgary.
Well, first of all, there's the bid process. So the league looks at all the cities, everyone who wants to. There was 3 who went forward this year.
Yep.
And all the governors of the teams vote on where they want to go. Our bid process included Tourism Calgary. They helped a huge amount to really showcase what this city is. And then, go through the bid process. Once that's all done, it was all planning from there. It's expensive. Hotels are kind of up there in price. Everything from food, feeding the scouts, feeding the players. So a little bit of planning goes into it. Yep. But it's been a fun process. Since we got it, sponsors have stepped up pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
We've brought in Nutrien. There are I guess we'll call it their title sponsorship. And a few other big companies across Calgary too. So by the time the puck drops, it should be a financially successful event, but also we're excited to really fill the Max Bell Center as well.
So tell me a little bit about that part, because the schedules, again, for regular hockey watchers is a little odd because it gets going early, right?
11 a.m., 11, 2, 5, and 8. So we'll have 12 hours a day of hockey action. And then, going back to your earlier question too, we wanted to really bring in more of Calgary to this showcase as well. So every intermission, a different local artist will be performing. I think we have over a dozen on the Ranchman stage, we're calling it.
Yep.
So rather than just watch that Zamboni go around or listen to the same old tunes over and over, we're going to have some live music that way as well. Friday is a pretty exciting day. We're partnered with Siksika Nation. We're going to be doing a Truth and Reconciliation Day, calling it a celebration of caring, basically starting a relationship off between us and their nation.
Yep.
The game will start with like 15 dancers, 4 drummers, some hoop dancers, and really kind of bring that all together. The next day is formally a Truth and Reconciliation Day on Saturday. We didn't want to we know we are playing on that day, but we didn't want to overstep that with their more meaningful celebration. So we're going to do our own version of that on Friday. That's pretty exciting. We're also launching a special jersey that day for the Canucks, which will be pretty unique. It's designed by an artist out there in Siksika. So,
well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Stampeders. It's the same artist. It's Richard Running Rabbit and
Absolutely,
Alexis and Dr. Tyler White. So, I mean, they've had a hand in this, and I've seen the tournament logo, so I'm excited to see the jersey. And I also know that at some point there's are you not playing games out there?
we are. It's going to be released. That's a secret. It's getting out there early.
Oh,
we will release that.
Jack, scrub that. I shouldn't have said that. Okay. Privileged information. Sometimes I'm just full of stuff.
It's gonna come out soon enough. It's
Yeah.
coming out Friday, but yeah, we are gonna be moving a regular season game, and I believe it'll be their first regular season game played at the Deerfoot Sportsplex. So that's kind of exciting. They've had lots of WHL preseason action, but it's a cool thing. We're also going to be launching hockey schools with their youth coming into the city, working with our players for an afternoon, and we have buses coming from Siksika to Max Bell that day, this Friday coming up. So it's a cool relationship. We're trying to really grassroots it. So with the folks like Richard Running Rabbit and Jody from Siksika, they've really been involved from day one of planning. It's not just we're going to say it's truth and reconciliation and give ourselves a pat in the back. It's gonna be meaningful in the end.
Yeah, it can't be box checking.
Yep.
And too much box checking goes on in sport. Look what we done.
Totally.
It has to be meaningful. It has to have action. It has to have, heart and soul behind it. So excited to hear you doing that. You mentioned the artists. What other types of that's showing visitors, Calgary? What about the players? What kind of player experience are they getting?
Players will have a top-notch experience. So first of all, some of these smaller centers, they don't quite have the same access to team meals. They might be stuck at some more generic restaurants. I'm not going to name them or anything, but we have Centerra.
I've been to Bonnyville.
There you go. We have Centerra Market, who has stepped up huge. They're going to feed our scouts and our players. They are also going to get really cool swag bags getting here. The renovations at Max Bell for the visitor side, really nice rooms now across the league. So they're going to get that. And they're just going to get a outstanding experience. The Flames have stepped up too. They're going to give them a ticket to either one of the next two preseason games. So they'll get to go out and watch some NHL action. And the other fun thing, some of the players will get experience is Tuesday night. And that is an evening with legends, which is going to be probably the biggest banquet the Canucks ever put on. Over 800 people attending. Mark Messier, Lonnie McDonald are going to be speaking. I think it's Gord Miller of TSN. Gordon Miller?
No, it's Gord Miller. Yeah.
He'll be kind of hosting the hot stove lounge style for that. So that's going to be kind of cool too. Our players will attend. A few of their teams are coming. And really kind of lean into a few things. I mean, one, it's the 60th anniversary of the AJHL.
Yep.
It's the 52nd year of Calgary Canucks hockey here in Calgary. So just trying to bring back a little bit of the history and really understand, or for the general hockey fan in the city, just to know what type of players come out of this league in the past.
So tell me a little bit about how you are honoring the history, because you're right. I mean, I was here in '95 when the Fort McMurray Oil Barons and the Canucks battled for the Centennial Cup, which I believe is the last time that Calgary Canucks won a Centennial Cup.
I believe you're right.
Are the likes of Donnie Phelps and others going to be around this event?
I believe so. Yeah, lots of Canucks alumni coming out. We're going to celebrate it throughout the tournament. We've got some history tables set up. We're going to showcase all the team's history through some video presentations and stuff like that.
Yep.
Really kind of leaning back into that. The Canucks had their big celebration of the 50th year. It kind of got COVIDed a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of did.
Yeah. So we had a really good team that year too, actually. We're playing well against Brooks in those closed door series. But this is kind of our chance to really celebrate the half century. It is 2 seasons later, but that is what it is.
So for the Canucks players themselves, what's the experience? I mean, there's an old adage in broadcasting that you never want to cover the Briar in your own town.
Yeah.
That it's always, my biggest disappointment was the only Royal Bank Cup that I was with a team that went to was Yorkton, an hour and a half away. I didn't get to go to Atlantic Canada or BC or someplace like that. What about for your players? How do you make sure that they get benefit out of this event?
Oh, I think they're going to have some fun dressing room visitors over the next couple of days. So they'll get some up close and personal time with some hockey legends. And really, same thing. We're just going to be feeding them well the entire time. They're actually working today. We've got our U18 showcase kicking off today and tomorrow at the Max Bell, and I guess Wednesday morning as well.
Right.
So we're putting them to work early on, going back to not wanting to host or be at your own Briar, but we'll make sure they feel well treated during the showcase itself. Hoping to have 2 really good crowds. Ticket sales are going really well for the Wednesday, Friday. So, giving them that atmosphere they deserve in this city will be fun. With the music pumping and the crowd in there, minor hockey involvement. And then I guess just letting them showcase their facility. I mean, everything's been renovated in that building. We now have a brand new gym facility. They get to take through young players, tour them through what they get to go through. And the last couple of years have really been I'd say a turning point in Canucks organizational speaking. One, we've found massive ways to increase our budget to be more competitive, and 2, just putting more emphasis into our facilities when we have here. The teams that are coming up like Brooks and Blackfalds, they have these private gyms. They have all these different amenities, these player meeting rooms, and we're starting to get that too now. So to allow our players to show that off to the young ones and also to the rest of the league, we're pretty excited about that.
So from a league perspective, Ryan and his staff, what will they be doing at this event? Are there coaching conferences? Do they take the opportunity? This is a rare opportunity to have almost everybody in the same house at the same time.
Yeah, well, this is my first time chairing this, so I don't know what Ryan's going to do. I've been involved with him once a week planning and stuff for this. It's a league event too.
Yep.
But I think they'll be mostly just hosting the scouts too, making sure that any questions are answered about what the AJHL is, who our top prospects are,
right,
and really just creating those relationships to make sure that when these leagues are considering where to spend their time scouting, they're at more than just the showcase games. This is a great chance for them to see all the players at one time, but it's September still. These players will develop a lot more throughout the year. And we see these scouts check into our games. We're lucky with the Canucks because we have an international airport right here. So we do see probably a higher percentage of scouts than most of the towns do. They might not always be there for the Canucks players necessarily, but they're here to watch the games, right? So really get them introduced, answer any questions. I think a lot of hosting will be his job. And Ryan's done an excellent job of really telling this league story and making sure that it's always kind of in the forefront of the scouting community. I mean, one thing that's helped too is programs like Brooks, who consistently bring home national championships. And I think the league as a whole is looking to not just be a one-trick pony, but to really become more competitive. And when you get to that final weekend or final series, maybe mix up some teams as well, right? That's important. The big thing that's changed this year, we've moved to one division. So I think that's going to be a big stepstone forward for the league. You're not going to have to play the same divisional team 7-8 times a year. You're going to have way more chance to see every player across, more chance for these players to get a variety of game plans going, not just have to play the same group. So it's been exciting to see how the 16-team division will work out. But
I'm probably not as tapped into the prospect pool as I used to be, but are there specific NHL prospects that are going to be skating in this showcase that we should be aware of?
There are quite a few, but honest to gosh, I don't have that list in front of me either right now. My focus has heavily been on the execution of the actual event itself right now, booking hotel rooms and everything else.
I get that. And part of the reason for a showcase like this will also be helping Central Scouting and others to generate the watch lists and the first drafts. So there'll be a lot of that.
There are definitely guys on that list that are coming into this. NHL Central Scouting too. They'll do all the heights and measurements on day one as well. So they'll get a chance to really get to know all the players, see where they're at this season. Because you're right, these kids are 16 to 21. They can change a lot in the course of a year or two. So it's always good to check back in.
Okay, and so I just before I let you go, you mentioned a U18 showcase.
Yes.
So what is and who is involved in that?
So the U18 showcase is all the quadrant teams. A few other, I'm not sure, there's a Saskatchewan team in there as well. Basically, this was an initiative from our board of directors to say, okay, we're hosting this event. Why don't we give an excuse for our scouts to come a little bit early into our city, stay a few extra nights. So this is U18 AAA. It's kicking off this afternoon. I believe the first game's at 2 or 3 p.m.
Okay.
You can watch all those games on HN Live. It's being broadcast as well. But it's a great chance too to outreach to our quadrant teams, which was a big thing. We want to make sure with all these changes the Canucks are doing and this pivot to becoming a more, let's just be blunt, a more competitive team in the AJHL, we need to have a better in path with our local Calgary players. We want this team to be 90% Calgary born and raised.
Yep.
And that starts with showcases like this. Give these U18 teams a chance to play in front of scouts, give them a chance to play an organized tournament before their preseason start. And that's exactly what we did with this one.
You also mentioned that tomorrow night there is a dinner. Or is that sold out? Are there tickets still available? Or
So it was sold out. However, the Flames tweeted it a little bit later than we'd planned. So we've opened up some seats. We're lucky that it's a big venue. So
okay.
I believe there's over 800 sold, but we have room to go up to 1,000. So there are some seats available.
Okay.
That's on the Calgary Canucks website, calgarycanucks.ca.
Okay.
That evening will kick off at 6 p.m. tomorrow. You can either purchase a table or individual tickets, but it's gonna be pretty cool. Sport for Calgary, part of the proceeds goes towards them, and then of course the other part is the Calgary Canucks. And it's one thing I'll say is we are still a nonprofit, community-owned team. We're ran by a board of directors and heavily off the backs of volunteers. I have over 82 volunteers helping to bring the showcase over the next 3 days, and we have a team of about 25 that really ice our team all year long. So there's not many of those teams left in this league. A lot of them are private owned now. We're a mixture. So it's we're preserving that, and it's almost gone away a few times, but we've fought to really keep it that way, and not just keep it that way, but get back to being competitive.
And tournament passes or game day tickets, where can people get those?
Yeah, calgarycanucks.ca or tickets.calgarycanucks.ca. And everything's done by a day pass, much at the max tournament. So buy a day pass to get all 4 games, or you can buy a tournament pass still as well for all 4. Like I said, Wednesday to Saturday, 4 games a day, 11, 2, 5, and 8. The 2 Canucks games to focus back on were Wednesday and Friday. So both of ours, we play a lot of family-friendly times at 5 p.m. That way, it's just an easy time to get the kids back to bed and everything. We wanted to be a little bit different than the Flames, Hitmen, and their time zone. So both our games are at 5. Wednesday, we're taking the Canmore Eagles on, which we just downed them on the weekend here on Sunday. And then on Friday, Drayton Valley Thunder. And that's that celebration of carrying the Siksika Nation. So both those 2 games will be hopefully some good crowds and great atmosphere at the Max Bell.
Outstanding. Congratulations, Lyle, on to you and your board for getting this done. Best of luck this week. I know you guys will knock it out of the park. So thanks for spending some time. And again, Flames Nation Citizen drops on 9 a.m. on Wednesday. So thanks for doing this.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob.
There you go. Lyle Peterman joining us, courtesy of Ski Sellers Snowboard. 2 locations, Bowness and McLeod, open right now for all the latest in skis, snowboards, clothing, whatever you need, but most importantly, the expertise to get out there and make your time in the mountains credible, fun, and everlasting. Go to Ski Sellers Snowboard, skisellersnowboard.com. A reminder, we are live in the Oodle Noodle studio. We haven't talked enough about our friends from Oodle Noodle. Word on the street is there could be another location popping up here real quick. So really excited about that. But also a great opportunity for you. And there is a location in Airdrie as well for you to pop in and grab dinner when you need it. Speaking of Ski Seller Snowboard and skisellersnowboard.com, they bring us our next guest as we go from one to another, stay in the world of hockey. Mentioned 77 years here in Calgary, skisellersnowboard.com. He is the managing editor of FlamesNation.com. Ryan Pike days here. And well, this is an easy one to do, Ryan. They may never lose again. 10-0 win over Vancouver. It's easy. They've proven it can be easy. And here we go.
Well, I mean, they're playing a team that on paper was going to be outmatched. I mean,
on paper.
All due respect to the Vancouver Canucks organization, I mean, they essentially brought the Abbotsford Canucks, and instead of the Flames countering with the Calgary Wranglers, they countered with a good chunk of the NHL roster. And, the Flames, in Penticton, the Flames lost 7-1 to a Vancouver Canucks prospect group that was pretty heavy on AHL bodies. And the Flames opted to bring a group to Penticton that was light on AHL bodies, and it was very one-sided. And so I guess turnabout is fair play, as they say. And, it was one of those things where if you're a Flames supporter or sitting up with Craig Conroy in the manager's box, you look at that game and go, well, I mean, you're not going to, what can you take away from it outside of the fact that, they were given an assignment
Yep.
And they thoroughly passed that assignment. And then they, hit the reset button and play 2 games at once on Monday.
Yep. Well, but you and I said this off the top, you and I have done this long enough to know that there are options, or there have been games like this, that it has not been as one-sided as it should have been, right? That they walk through it, or they allowed the Canucks. The Canucks just never ice good teams on the road in the preseason. Just don't.
No, nobody does. It's the preseason.
Yeah, I think there's teams. I think there's other teams that half-heartedly try, but the Canucks are the worst.
Yeah,
right?
Generally speaking. So the wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade here. The NHL has a rule, the 8 veterans rule. The 8 veterans rule is very, very flimsily enforced early in the preseason, because early in the preseason you will have teams like, here's an example. The Calgary Flames rather. The Flames have 64 players in camp. The Seattle Kraken have 59. Between the two of them, they're each bringing 40 bodies to a preseason game of the other, and so they have the ability. If you look at the rosters that the Seattle Kraken are bringing to their 2 games, they have a fair chunk of their NHL roster that's just not going to be playing. And early in the camps, you can do that because you have tons of bodies. And let's be honest, if you're coming to camp with a nagging injury, you're coming into camp with a nagging injury. Last year at this time, the Flames were missing, I think, something like 6 or 7 guys because they were easing guys in, for various reasons. Jacob Markstrom, he was working through an injury from the summer last year. And they were going to be playing a lot, so they didn't really lean on too much in the preseason. You can get away with that in the first week of the preseason. When you got 30 guys in camp, it's a little bit harder. And so the NHL tends to crack down on things in the back half of camps and say, hey guys, you can't hide your good players by carrying too many bodies in the back half of camp. First half of camp, you can get away with a few things you probably shouldn't on paper. But I'd say the wink of everything is, typically speaking, and we saw this last year, the Flames and the Canucks this time last year opened with a split squad set, and the Flames sent PTOs and rookies, and the Canucks sent PTOs and rookies. That's just how it goes. If there's your NHL players go through enough travel and short notice travel during a regular season that you probably don't ask them in September, hey, can you fly to Winnipeg and back in a day? Hey, can you fly to Vancouver and back? You can get away with it a couple times. Like, again, late in camp, you have the games you have and you got to use them. But, in the front half of the preseason, you want to save your bullets, so to speak. So
Agreed.
rather than sending Michael Backlund at 34 years old to Seattle and then back in the same day, he's going to be playing here. And that's not unexpected, nor is it out of what the norm is, basically league wide at this point in the preseason.
So a couple things that come out of that game. I think I take my cues from Ryan Huska. With Oliver Shillington not cleared, and later on, Dennis Gilbert gets hurt. Jordan Osterley stood out. He stood out for the coach. It's everything you just talked about. You can not stand out. You can just go about your business and be ready. We've seen that movie before, but good on him. There's an opportunity here for him.
Yeah. I mean, the Oliver Shillington situation is what it is. He's, we don't know a lot about outside of, I think everyone's hoping that whatever he is dealing with right now gets resolved because he's a hell of a hockey player. But, Huska mentioned this on the opening day of camp, but he was asked sort of about this situation and the ramifications for other players. If you're Jordan Osterley, Jordan Osterley was going to be paid $925,000 to come to Calgary and probably be the 7. And now potentially he has the opportunity to be more than a 7. And for a guy that's sort of been, he's, 30 years old. He's been a guy who's sort of been in that 6-7 mold his entire career, but he's got some upside to him. And I think if you're him, you see this opportunity to, potentially put your stamp on a role, whether it's here long-term or somewhere else. And, so far, based on one game against the Abbotsford Canucks, he looked really, really good, and him and Chris Tanev really seemed to find a lot of chemistry together. And, that's the kind of thing you're hoping for. And, there's of all the guys that, especially the new faces that we saw, I think folks were curious about Sharon Govich, but I think folks had seen enough of Sharon Govich over the last few years to kind of have a handle on him. But I think Osterley is a little bit more of an unknown because of the places he's played and also sort of the type of role he's played in those places. He has an opportunity to potentially grab hold of something here.
And the other, and I want to be really clear about how I represent what Coach Ryan Huska said. He dropped the name not as a comparison, but as a example of a type of player.
Yeah.
But, and I, could care less how many goals Coronado got last night. To me, it was all about the release and where he goes, like his path to the net and where he is, and the release. The release is world class. It is absolutely world class right now.
Yeah, and I think if you look at all three of his goals, I mean, his three goals were, for those of you who didn't see the game, and if you didn't, shame on you, because they only televise like 2 preseason games a year, and it's always the Vancouver crew. But I like the Vancouver broadcast crew.
Yeah.
But the 3 goals, you had a goal at the tail end of a power play where Zari and Coronado kind of lose a puck, but they battle enough to really force the defender to make a bad pass up the wall. And then as soon as the puck is up the wall to the wrong guy, Coronado, sensing that something might be happening, just books it for the net. He gets a tip on the initial shot, and then he chips the puck over the goaltender. His second goal was off a really nice play, a forecheck by Dryden Hunt. Dryden Hunt just gets a stick into a lane and just causes poor Noah Juleson, who did not have a good night at all, to cough up a puck. And then Coronado, it's on a tee for him, and you give him any chance on a gimme and he'll take it. And then I think the third goal on the power play is probably the one that folks love the most. And it was, I think, the one that got the most chatter from him folks after the game. Just a quick pass over from the slot, and basically from the faceoff dot to the goaltender's left. As soon as it's on his stick, it's off the stick and over the guy's shoulder. And it's one of those releases. I know Ryan Huska invoked the name of Brett Hull. Forever a Flame, Brett Hull, the guy the Flames traded to St. Louis to win a Stanley Cup. And it managed to, if you're Coronado, you probably love the comparison. If you're Coronado's representation, you probably love that comparison. And if you're a Flames fan, I mean, looking back to his draft year, even the year before his draft year, Coronado spent 2 years in the USHL, and he had absolutely torn up the prep leagues he was playing in the New York State area. And the mindset was, well, he's kind of smallish, but let's see how he does against other guys. No one ever disputed his ability to score goals, but just against these higher end junior players in the USHL, a very, very good league up there with the 3 CHL leagues in terms of talent and ability to put guys in the NHL at this point. Yeah. Can he do it in that good league? And in his draft year, he, basically, for the Chicago Steel, he was unstoppable. Like he just scored goals like people breathe air. And then it's like, oh yeah, but can he do that in the ECAC, which is a very defensively stout collegiate league, on the East Coast for Harvard? And not only did he score goals like people breathe air, he also learned to play center when he's not a natural center, and also killed penalties and did a lot of other things. So Coronado is the type of guy, like he played a bit on the penalty kill and on the power play against Vancouver. I'm very, very curious sort of how his role is defined as they go forth, because he's one of those guys that can do a lot of things. And I think one of the big challenges I think the Flames faced under Daryl Sutter was, and I think that I'll use a phrase that Brad Treliving used, I believe the year before Daryl Sutter really came in and put a stamp on this team. I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, Brad used the phrase, they relied on too few to do too much. And, I think the Flames at their worst had put a lot of their eggs into 1 or 2 baskets in terms of asking 5 or 6 or 7 players to do a lot of different things. And, if you look at the players that the Flames have that have been able to do that, you don't want to fault the players. The players are good. Like, do you want to use Elias Lindholm in every situation? Yeah, Elias Lindholm is really, really good. Is it the best use of Elias Lindholm? Well, if you can have him do a little bit less because you have a Pelche or a Coronado or a Sharon Govich or whoever that can play a little bit of those leverage minutes in specific situations, then you leave a little bit left in the tank for the power play, for the last 5 minutes of the game, those kind of things. And, so those are the kind of guys I'm very curious to sort of see as the training camp and preseason season goes forth, how do they define Sharon Govich's role? We saw him on the PK last night. How do they define Coronado? He was all over the place. Pelche, who's playing, I believe, his first preseason game this evening. There's a lot of guys who could do a lot of different things and have done a lot of different things at lower levels. Can they do it at the NHL level? And can they do it effectively enough that your key players can do a little bit less?
Yeah, and that's, to me, is pivotal, but also necessary in the sense that you don't have that when that comment was made, you had Gaudreau and Tkachuk.
Yeah.
You don't,
and at that point you had Monahan too.
Right. And now you got to do it by committee. And to me, just staying with Coronado for a second, I said this off the top. I was going to ask you this. In terms of offensive players, forwards that have, young forwards that have come into camp and forced issues and really, had results. Is Chuck Kobasu the last one? Because Chuck Kobasu had a big preseason, right? And that kind of forced him into the lineup.
Yeah, I'd say that too. I think to a lesser, actually, I'd also put, Sam Bennett had a great training camp.
Yeah,
with
that's true.
A bum shoulder, and I think
Yeah.
it wasn't until they basically had to flag him with a shoulder that they basically had to throw in the towel on him. Monahan forced the issue. So did Tkachuk. But outside of, I'd say those three guys have the benefit of being like top 6 draft picks.
Right.
So outside of like the tippity top guys that you go, oh, top 6 guys, maybe they can make it right away. I think you definitely look to, the days of like Saprikin, Kobasu, those guys in the early to mid aughts, because, Coronado, was he an elite collegiate player? He was a very good collegiate player. I think he was sort of a notch below the elite players. But I also think the fact that he was an elite player might allow folks to exercise a bit of expectations management, because
yes,
I don't know if he's going to be a guy that comes in, like, he's not Adam Fantilli. He's not going to come in and necessarily compete for the Calder. I think the same thing's true for someone like Jacob Pelche, where Jacob Pelche was a very good QMJHL player, but not quite elite. He was a very good AHL player, not quite elite. He's, in the role he was given during his short NHL tenure last year, pretty good role player. And now the question is, okay, I think when you have those guys that have shown their ability to play those types of roles at lower levels and been very good in a niche, I think it might be easier to perform expectations management in terms of, helping fans and teammates and media keep our heads above water in terms of what they can expect from them. But I think also for the players, I mean, if you're Pelche, Pelche's been a very good 200-foot player everywhere he's played, so you don't really need to reinvent the wheel with him. Same with Coronado. I think if you look at the roles that Coronado played in college and said, hey, you know what you did last year? Can you do that, but in a different sweater? I don't think it's hard for him to really wrap his head around that.
I don't get the sense that you're going to have these, now we've got to teach him to play defense conversations. Not to say that he's a finished product or anything like that, but and I know that there have been offensive players who come through the system, which, well, we'll look past that or we'll hide him or whatever. There's a foundation here with him, right? As a rounded player. Yeah.
And, I think it gives them more confidence in trying them out, because, I think the challenge with a lot of guys who, we don't mean to be disrespectful when we call guys one-dimensional, because if you're a prodigious offensive player, odds are you never really needed to develop the shutdown side of your game because you spend all your time in the other zone.
Yep.
But when you are playing against the best players in the world, the fourth line guys in the National Hockey League, folks, are guys that were the best players in their league, in their town, at every level they played at until they were, 18, 19, 20 years old. And then they learned how to do something really specialized at the NHL level. So there's nobody bad in this level. And so I think, once you get here, you don't really have the ability to specialize necessarily to that level. But if you're a kid, if you have that defensive acumen to lean off of, lean on and build off of, it's really, really helpful, because the coach doesn't need to necessarily put you with a babysitter, so to speak. They can, let you loose and let you do your thing.
Tell me a story about Adam Klapka, because I've known about him. I've seen highlights. We saw him in Penticton, but last night he just seemed to be the biggest human being I've ever seen. That I don't know why, but he popped in that game. Like, I don't think I realized that he was that tall, yet, all things considered, like a Zdeno Chara gets around fairly well. I mean, he's not going to be confused for Cale Makar, but
he doesn't move like a big guy.
That's a good, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that the Flames European scouts flagged him, and he came over because I think he wanted to try out something, and he has the benefit, especially, I say this, he's a big kid and he's still very young and pretty raw, but for the age that he is, I think we underestimate how much pro experience he has, because he played pro hockey at I believe the secondary league in the Czech Republic. And I believe he played a little bit in the actual league too. But he's played pro hockey. And I think when you're playing pro hockey as a teenager or as an early 20-year-old against players in that league where, the Czech league, everyone's very good. It's one of the better leagues in the world.
Sure. And they're man strong too, right?
That's the thing, because like if you're a 20-year-old kid or a 19-year-old kid and you're big and built, you can get around in the Western League by bowling guys over, in the Quebec League, in the OHL, and so on. Even the USHL, you can get along by just bowling guys over because you can just be big, and you don't need to be good and big. You just need to be big, and it'll make your numbers good.
Yep.
Klapka's a guy that I think, because he played so much against grown-ass men at a young age, I think he learned how to use his bigness well, and I think he learned not to only use his bigness. And I think we saw it last year, especially the second half of the year in the AHL with the Wranglers. He had a hat trick in the last home game. He was exceptionally good in that game. But in the last, I'd say 20-ish games of the season, something clicked for him, and he just sort of figured out where to go, what lanes to be in, how to use his size effectively. And AHL goalies hate him. AHL defensemen hate him. I'm pretty sure everyone in that Young Stars tournament who played against him, goalies and defense, hate him. But he's one of those guys that he uses his size so effectively that how do you move him? Like if you're playing on a power play and he's parked in front, outside of you're the point man and you're going, oh God, I hope my shot doesn't hit Klapka. How do you move him? So I think he's still scratching the surface in terms of what he can do. And I think that's kind of an incredible thing for him because, he's played 1 year in North America and he's already progressed this much. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays NHL games this year, if only because he's got the size, he's got the mindset, he's got the skill set. And, I think he's the type of guy where I don't think that he makes the team out of camp. But I also think that he's one of those guys that, he'll be a cut. They'll give him some video and some stuff to work on. He'll go down the hall and work on them for 2-3 months. And then by January, we'll see him again. And he'll be even more effective than he was in the preseason.
Well, this is how impacted I am by watching him in just one game. I would move heaven and earth to find out what it would take Thomas Holmstrom to come over here and spend 2 months. 2 months. Just come over here, live in Calgary for 2 months, and all you do is teach this kid how to stand in front of the goal. Teach him because you're exactly right. In this NHL, how are you moving that? And if you can't move that, you're going to take a penalty.
Yeah. And if you're him, I mean, hell, if you're the Flames, if you're Cale McLean, if you're Jamie Pringle, I'd be in the video room right now cutting Matthew Tkachuk clips.
Yes.
In terms of his tips, in terms of how much he used. I'll say this. We're on the topic of great Czech players.
Yeah.
Jaromir Jagr is back for another year because he's, it's death taxes and Jaromir Jagr and Kladno.
Yeah.
Jaromir Jagr, he didn't play in Calgary for very long, but I noticed one thing he taught people was how to use your ass.
Yep.
And Jaromir Jagr has that big butt. Yep. And he used his big butt so well protecting the puck that for literally years after Jagr went back to Kladno, you could see the Flames players, the young players who played with him, using their big butts as a way to protect the puck and use their length and use your bodies to protect it. And I'd say get some Matthew Tkachuk clips to Klapka, but also show some Jaromir Jagr clips, because I think those guys don't nearly have the physical gifts or the length that Klapka has. And if I still think Klapka is just scratching the surface of what he could be.
Really? See, I now in your work, do you know is he a convert? Is this a defenseman that somebody made a forward? Because I got to be honest with you. A forward that big, that thick. You know what I mean? I've seen tall.
Yeah, growing up, the tall, long kids used to be defensemen because they could use their length,
their reach and everything like that. But he's thick too, right? Like he's not thin. Like he doesn't have chicken legs, right?
No, he's like a tree.
Yeah. I watched it. I don't know what it just popped last night because he can move. Now nobody's gonna confuse him with Dylan Dubé or anything like that. But he's, in all due respect, and God love him, he's in this city protecting us every day. Keegan Kanzig, the former Hitman defenseman, Keegan was a lot of things, but he was never going to be the fastest guy on your team.
I'll invoke the name of Flames Nation founder Kent Wilson. I think Ken always invoked the prototype that used to be, and it was for some reason I don't want to pick on Keegan Kanzig, but he's the name that pops into mind. The term Coke machine was used. Basically, tall, wide players that predominantly play defense.
Yes.
They're really good at boxing guys out, but much like a vending machine, they don't really move very fast.
Here, I'll give you a better one because I like Keegan and he's protecting us as a member of the Calgary Fire Department. Chris Breen.
Yeah, the Breen Giant.
Yeah.
Another, again, big defenseman. Another guy that moved much better than he should have for a guy his size. I believe Chris Breen is still playing somewhere. I think he's in Europe now, but he was in the Bruins organization for a long while.
He was captain for Providence, wasn't he?
Yeah, good for he turned it into a very good pro. Didn't really get the NHL career that he probably could have had, but a lot of guys, but I think, that's the big thing. And I think, Hunter Smith is another one that sort of fits that archetype. Guys that are just big.
This guy's better than Hunter Smith right now.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same page. Yeah.
But you can sort of see the archetype. And, I think when the Flames signed Adam Klapka, if you were a longtime Flames fan and you were just judging it based on the boxcar stats and based off of his size, there were people who were pretty skeptical, like, loyal readers, listeners, viewers that, read the reports and went, not another.
Here we go again, right?
Here we go again.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll be blunt. These types of guys are, if they don't work out, you can send them to the coast. If Adam Klapka didn't turn into Adam Klapka, you could tell me. We'll take a look and then we might sign them. And they signed a bunch of them. Some of them didn't work. I think, David Wolf was a carryover from Brian Burke. I think technically he's the first guy that True Living ever signed as GM. David Wolf did not work out. He left, went back to Europe.
But no harm, no foul.
There's guys that just sign them, they don't work out. They either go back home or you send them to Rapid City. But if they work out, then you look pretty smart. And I think that's one of the things where, you got 50 NHL contract spots to work with. And I think you'd be silly if you didn't spend one or two of them a year on these types of gambles because, whether we talked about, the Flames have been very effective at, grabbing small dudes with insane offensive numbers in the late rounds. I think the temptation exists and probably should still be, you got to scratch that itch with some big guys too, because, big guys can turn out, little guys can turn out. And, if you use your roster spots effectively and you use your picks and your signing abilities effectively, you can find some of these guys where no one else can.
You really got me thinking now about developing him, because if he can play in the NHL, can you imagine a third or fourth liner that could anchor your second power play? Because you could, he could be that guy, right? That just dominates in front of the net. And
Milan Lucic made a career out of that.
Right. But was a frontline player too in the middle of his career.
Oh yeah.
Right. No, this is what game ones are about. A little bit of dreaming and a little bit of what ifs and everything like that. But you can't, as they say, you cannot teach size. Tell me about being around Ryan Huska. You're in those press conferences. I'm watching them. I like the answers. He's not a dumb guy. This has been his dream. He's been building to this, but he has come and he has certainly put his stamp on being around it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a 180 from the way it's been the last little while.
I mean, he's one of those guys where I think he really likes just talking about the game and
Mhm.
talking about his philosophy. And I asked him on Saturday before the Saturday before after practice, just about the special teams units, and he spoke a lot about sort of what didn't work last year and what could work this year, and he talked a lot about how he wants to sort of see what kind of creativity Mark Savard can build into it. And I think we saw a bit of that against Vancouver, where there's 2 power play goals and then 2 goals scored immediately after power plays ended, and there was a lot of puck movement, a lot of guy movement, a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, and it was one of those things where I think if you look at a lot of the tweaks that the Flames have made, I mean, I think the big change from this year over last was a move to a zone system on the defense.
Yeah.
And my opinion is I think that comes from how successful they were on the penalty kill, because on the penalty kill, you're basically using.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. But the Flames were so good at doing
Yeah.
that. But I think if you're looking at the guys that are building out of the PK, you go, okay, watch what they're doing, and then just sort of build on that. I think they struggled a bit with breakouts at points against Vancouver, so they're going to have to work on that. But I mean, it makes sense to me, and he's a guy that I think if you and I became head coach and we said, "What do you want to copy from last year?" I'd say, Can you figure out what worked on the penalty kill and expand it to other parts? And it seems that that's his philosophy. So yes, I'm an unabashed fan of Ryan Huska. As a person and as a coach, he's really personable. He really likes talking about the game, and he's the type of guy anyone who hasn't seen it, go to the Sunday morning scrum. I believe the Flames on Calgary Flames TV posted on YouTube. His scrum discussions about Adam Ruzicka, just the opportunity in front of Adam Ruzicka. He is both very complimentary of the player, but also sort of a little bit critical of the player. But he does it in a way that doesn't really bury the player. He just I showed it to my wife. I said, "This is how Ryan Huska criticizes players." She's like, "That sounded really nice." Like he spent 80% of the scrum talking about things that he's good at, and then went, "Yeah, but he has to be more consistent." It's like, yeah, okay. That's, if I'm Ruzicka and I hear that, I go, okay, that's. I don't really feel bad after listening to it. I listen to the 80% of it that I agree with and go, yeah, okay, I can see that. And you go, oh, okay, yeah, he's right about that. So, it's definitely a change of tone. The answers we're getting are definitely longer. He answers in paragraphs, sometimes multiple paragraphs, but. I think if you're someone who in town, regardless of your employment with the team, as a player, as a media member, as a fan, I think fans are going to learn a ton about the game, about the people, and about the players, and about anything you want to learn about from the game just from listening to Ryan Huska's press conferences. And if you're someone that's just a hardcore fan, you just want to learn and you're excited about what's going on, I think you're at the very least, you're going to get your money's worth from listening to those press conferences.
Mike Tyson has the great line, "Everybody's got a plan until they're punched in the mouth." Right. And to me, I want to see what happens. There's going to be, it's not see what happens. That's just the next evolution of it. Okay. Now, how do you deal with something bad, or how do you deal with 3 or 4 games without a win and that sort of thing? It feels it's weird. Like it just, like last night felt like elation, and I'm like, guys, it's first game of the preseason, and I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but
are you trying to tell me that they're not relegating the Vancouver Canucks?
Yes, I don't know how they didn't. I mean, I like it. I like it. You're around it. You're closer to it than I am right now, and I'm watching from afar, and I know that there are limitations there. I like what I see, but because you've chronicled it. We have gone from ass kicker to ass kisser to hard ass to players coach. It just seems like it's a constant pendulum around here. Good teams, bad teams, good teams, playoffs.
It's the 3 Bears thing. You go from
exactly.
And I think, is there a middle ground that works, especially with this new era of players, where if you look at, I'm feeling old now because I'm older than everybody on the team. Thank you, Trevor Lewis, for leaving the club, because now I'm the oldest. I'm older than anyone on the team. But it's one of those things where I think the challenge will be, and Ryan talked about this the other day, the accountability piece, because in preseason, when you're teaching, when you're learning, when, nothing counts, so the mistakes don't matter. Yeah, you can be everybody's buddy and you can be a teacher and you can be really, really even-handed. But I'm really curious on a team-wide level, at the National Hockey League level, how the accountability piece works, because we've heard quite a bit from Rasmus Anderson about how, he and Huska in his first year, Anderson's first year, did not get along, because the marching orders from the Flames was basically, be all over this guy. We think he's really good, but you need to ride him. And so he wrote him. And, they were critical of his consistency and his fitness and a bunch of things.
Yep.
But Anderson has said basically, in retrospect, he was completely right. It was exactly what I needed. And he figured out the right way and the right tone with Anderson, which is good. Can you do that at the National Hockey League level when the hopes and dreams of 1.5 million people are swinging with every win, loss, and overtime loss that this group goes through?
It's true.
I don't know. It's a unique situation.
It's true. No, it's
the
a great way of putting it.
The things you can do in Stockton, I mean, bless their hearts. I got to know quite many people, fans in Stockton, and the really nice folks that ran the Stockton franchise when the Flames farm team was there. But Stockton is not a hockey town. It's kind of a minor league basketball town now. They also have a pretty decent they have a decent basketball team. I think they have a few other minor pro teams there, but it's really not a hockey town. But you're basically operating in fairly significant anonymity there. Whereas here, it's like the people in town here know who the Wranglers players are.
Yep.
Like, people had nuanced opinions about the usage of Mitch McLean last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because of placement, you get more scrutiny. And I think especially the National Hockey League team gets a lot of scrutiny, regardless of things going well or not. And, it's easy to say it when you're saying, great job, welcome to the club, congratulations in the grocery store. In the Ides of January, when it's cold as hell and people are grumpy and the team's on a 3-game losing streak, the tone might change. And I'm very curious to see if the coach's tone changes at that point.
Yep, me too. Good stuff, my friend. What's going on at Flames Nation this week? How are we covering said team?
Games. The nice thing is, their games are being streamed. I think if you can't make it down to the Dome on Monday night, the Flames are streaming that game. I can't recall what's happening on Wednesday. I believe they're playing the Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's on TSN3, but I think the Flames may or may not be streaming that. They'll keep your eyes out in the Flames social media, because they're usually very good at announcing what they are and are not doing. But 960 also is carrying all the games, and brand new broadcast team. 2-time Olympic gold medalist Megan Mickelson has joined Wilsey on the calls, and I got to hang out with Megan Mickelson a bit on the weekend. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's a great girl.
Yeah,
she's a great broadcaster, and she knows her stuff. So
she knows her stuff, and she asked a couple questions during one of the press conferences of the weekend that was just such a good question. Like, I think we're spoiled in this market, because I learn things listening to media members, let alone listening to coaches and players. So I think we're pretty well covered in that respect. But yeah, there's Flames games, 2 on Monday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Friday, and then we're probably going to see some cuts tomorrow on Tuesday as they try to get probably some of the extra bodies out of here, get down to more of a pro focused group, probably some more cuts closer to the end of the month, when I believe Wranglers camp, I think, opens in a week or so. And so you're going to need to send some of the AHL bodies down to the AHL club. So I think right now they have something like 64 players in camp. My guess is within a week, we're probably somewhere into the low 40s, high 30s. So if you're one of those people who sees that list of names and goes, oh God, I don't remember who any of these guys are, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
1,
don't commit it to memory yet.
Website, and 2, we'll tell you who you got to remember in a week. But yeah, this is the fun time of year, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and with 4 games in a 5-day span, 5 games in a 6-game span dating back to yesterday. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's like drinking from the fire hose all of a sudden.
I love it. Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you next Monday, and we will follow you at Flames Nation and FlamesNation.com. Thanks, Ryan. There you go. Ryan Pike joining us courtesy of Ski Sellers Snowboard, Bowness and McLeod Trail locations are open right now. Still to come, Windsport and 17th Avenue in a little while when the snow starts to fly. But right now, you can get the best of the new stuff for this winter: skis, clothing, snowboards, snow skates. I keep saying them. I just want to say skate snows, but snow skates. It's all there. But better than that, it's the staff that can tell you how to use it, what to get, what you need. Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. We'll bring Jack into the conversation right now. We've been collecting questions and comments, and Jack, you've gone through them. What do you got for us today?
We got a couple interesting ones here today.
Perfect.
A Murray Edwards hater.
Okay.
This is from Reese from Texas.
Reese in Texas.
Do you think if Murray Edwards ran his oil companies like he ran the Flames, he would be bankrupt?
Very interesting that comes from Texas, because I would point to Jerry Jones and whether or not Jerry Jones would run oil and gas companies like he runs the Dallas Stars. I would point to Mark Cuban. No, I don't know what it is. I think you run into trouble if you try to run pro sports teams like regular businesses. I've been on the inside. There is a corporate portion of it, but it's not like other corporations. Murray, love him or hate him, good or bad or whatever, Murray wants to win. And Murray is not patient. And Murray makes changes, and he blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind when he gave Daryl Sutter an extension and then allowed the team to move on. Like, he is paying for a coach to not coach here, and he's done that in the past. Keenan got paid not to coach, and others. I think Bob got paid not to coach, and on and on and on it goes. But to that end, I've always said, and you see that with the Ottawa owner coming on board, fresh days and everything's glorious and we're all happy. But all due respect, when I first got here back in 2003, 2004, I got thrown right in the middle of the Terry Federic mess with the Stampeders. And it's always been my opinion, you don't own a pro sports team. You hold it in trust. The city, if it's successful, the city owns it. The city rallies around it. The city pushes it forward. You pay the bills. You have to, deal with the legal ramifications, but you own it in trust. So to answer your question, no, you cannot run a pro sports team the same way you run a business. If you try to run a pro sports team the way you try to run a business, you end up with, failure as well. It's the best description I've ever had of anything is the description I got about officiating. You have to think about officiating a hockey game, a basketball game, a soccer game, football game the same way. You have a bird in your hand and you need to keep it in your hand. You can't squash it because you'll kill it, and you can't open it up because it'll fly away. And it's the same thing when you own a team. You have to find the right chemistry.
Next question here.
Yeah.
Are you confident that Jordan Osterley could be the sixth defenseman on this team for the whole season, or do they need to make a move?
More today than I was yesterday. That when we heard the news last Friday that Oliver Shillington wasn't coming back, wasn't cleared. That's not right. Wasn't cleared. We don't know when he's coming back. Sorry, but he wasn't back. And I believe I said it, that, I liked Troy Stetcher last year. I just did. I thought there was a role for Troy Stetcher here, but that's not what Craig Conroy thought. That's not what the team thought. I know of Jordan Osterley. He's been in the league. I know of him as I would with any other casual observation that I make of players in this league. I thought he was good yesterday, but again, he was good against an American League team. I want to see. He has to be. He has to be. And it depends on where you sit on Hannafin too. The short term or the long term, where are you going to go? Right? At some point, this team needs, it's got Uyghur and it's got Anderson that are going to be around for a while. You know, Zadorov's got another year, I believe. Tanev is so that, you know, you hope Osterley turns into a good story, but I've seen enough training camp good stories that don't translate to the regular season, right? So more so today than I did yesterday, but the assignment is incomplete.
I agree. Similar question here for
Yep.
someone. Like, is it safe to assume, or is it too early to assume that he will be the 60 man come opening day?
Yeah, I mean, you signed to a very team friendly contract, so no, it's not safe to assume anything. But you know, I'd like to know how much, you know, Dennis Gilbert is banged up, right?
Yeah,
looked like a head injury last night, I think. You know, want to make an uneducated guess, but if he's playing camp banged up, then it certainly improves the odds, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
Where will Matthew Coronado fit into this lineup?
Second line winger.
Ruzicka's spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that as well.
Yeah.
And then Ruzicka will probably be the fourth line centerman.
Yeah. I mean, you like that flexibility, don't you?
Mhm.
Being able to move centerman to the wing and wings, you know, into the middle and that sort of thing. I would not, although he'd have to play the same side. But if you can play up the middle and you can play on the left side, I think you can play on the right side. Is it out of the realm of possibility they move him up there with Lindholm and Huberdeau at some point?
Ruzicka?
No.
Or Coronado?
Coronado.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And the reason I say that was the comment that Huska made about he can shoot the puck from anywhere, right? Behind him, in front of him, to the side, and all those sort of things. Now, it's an awful lot to ask of a young player, but Lindholm is as good a solid player as this team has. Huberdeau, if he lives up to his expectations, should be an incredible disher. And then what I said off the top, yes, the release, but also the location of where Coronado is and where he goes. He knows where to go to score goals. And, you know, don't doubt Zary in that case, too, because I thought Zary was in the right place, too, last night, right?
Yeah, it kind of feels like Sharon Govich and Ruzicka are going to get the first kind of crack to be in the top six.
Yeah.
And then the young,
I'll tell you this,
will come up if
I'll tell you this. I like Sharon Govich as a penalty killer.
Yeah.
Anything else on top of that is a bonus for me, I think.
Next question. Are you okay giving Wolf another full year in the AHL?
Would it kill him? No. Would it affect you in the long term? Probably not. Is it ideal? It's not ideal, and it's not ideal for this reason. You want, in this day and age, it's a young player's game. You want young players to know there are opportunities to earn spots on this club. And I only know this because I know there has been frustration in the past with the use of some young players, because then it gets brought up and thrown in the face of the team as they're trying to recruit others. Geez, we saw how you developed this kid. You know, we didn't like that, or we don't want to go through that. We'll go here. Or, man, we really appreciate the opportunity you give kids. Dan Vladar has done nothing to lose the job. It's not like Dan Vladar is, and I've said this before, I think Dan Vladar could go somewhere and he could evolve into a number one too. I think the Flames have potential for 3 number ones. I think Markstrom can have a bounce back. I think they're sitting on the best young goalie prospect in hockey, and Dan Vladar could be a number one. Maybe not, but could be. So what was the question? Could he? Or would it be the worst thing? Or how did they, where they're looking for?
Are you like, okay, if he's just in the A the whole year, he doesn't play at all in the NHL this year?
No, I'm not okay if he doesn't play. This kid, I think you have to show some faith. He needs to be rewarded. And you also need to know if he can do it. You also need to know if he can do it. This organization has had all-star goalies at the American Hockey League level before that have not translated to NHL starters. And I'm not taking a run at anybody, but that's the truth. Now, Curtis McElhaney turned out to be a very valuable backup and a Stanley Cup champion. Brent Cron got sidelined by injuries and got, screwed around. I believe I think Leland Irving was an all-star, but no, he has to get some games. But him starting and finishing the American Hockey League, I don't think it's the end of the world, and it would be a real test of the kid's moral character, because how would he handle it?
So if you're Huska, how are you breaking down this 3-goalie tandem? Then how many games are you giving Markstrom, Vladar, Wolf? Is he getting 5, 10?
If it's a 3-goalie system, Markstrom gets X. You need to determine what X is. 50 games. Vladar gets Y minus Z. So, if Markstrom's getting 45 games, that means there's 35 games. So Vladar gets 35 minus 10. That's my answer to the question. I believe that Vladar will be gone at some point. I just believe that.
That was another question here. If like Wolf starts the season strong in the preseason and he plays a game and he's really good, do you just get rid of Vladar?
No.
You can't?
No, because you have that rare asset control with Wolf. And why would you give up an asset in Vladar? I know everybody rushed to Colorado. Franzus is not, he's not going to be there for 20, 30 games. But I've been around. Craig Conroy's been around. Ryan Huska's been around. The agents have been around. In the next 2 weeks, there's injuries that are going to happen. There's going to be things that are going to happen. There's going to be demotions. There's going to be surprises. There's going to be heartbreak. I just don't think we know what the landscape will look like 48 hours, 72 hours before the start of the NHL season.
Last question for you.
Yep.
Will Daryl Sutter
Yeah.
coach in the NHL again?
No. No.
No.
I think he'll be in the NHL. I think there's a role for Daryl Sutter. Remember, he was in Anaheim prior to coming here as an advisor. I think there's a lot to get from Daryl Sutter. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he coaches again.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
I could see it.
Yeah, I could.
Maybe if there's a team,
it wouldn't shock me if there's a team like LA 10 years ago that is on the cusp and he can push them over the hump. But that's what they thought here, right?
Yeah,
that's what they thought here. And in year one, he won the Jack Adams. It looked like they were right. Right? Yeah. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that.
No problem.
A couple things to take you home with tonight. Well, let's stay with that thank you, Jack part. I do want to thank Jack. He went above and beyond on Friday. And if you have not heard the conversation with Sven Berchi, it's worth your while. The former Flame first-round pick was honest. He was really insightful. I knew he would be good, but he was really, really good. And I think if you're a Flames fan, you want to hear that conversation. I really, really do. Also, very proud to announce that the general manager of the Calgary Flames, who I've already said, do not expect really good cutting-edge commentary from me on him because he's a friend of mine. We will be doing I think it's our 13th Let's Talk Hockey for the prep program. But we have a date. So Craig Conroy and I are hosting on November 28th at the Saddle Dome. We're not going to have any problems getting guests this year. He's the GM. So anyway, go to prep program, the website, and you can get tickets. They're already available. It's a dinner. We got a silent auction, the whole 9 yards. It's a lot of fun. If you've never been to this event, it is a ton of fun. So tickets are now on sale. So go to Prep Program and the Prep Society, and you can buy the tickets right off the website. And finally, 1 week from today, Hockey Inspires Leadership Coaching Edition, year 2 for Hockey Calgary. Jody Carrington is going to be one of the speakers. If you've never heard Dr. Jody Carrington, she's an incredible speaker. And this will have to do with relationships and trauma-informed coaching. But we've got great Steve Hamilton's going to be there. Marco Carducci from the Cavalry is going to be there. All kinds of great guests. And Sandra Persina, the voice of the Wranglers, is going to be the MC. So if you're a hockey coach, register today. Go get more information at hockeycalgary.ca. That'll do it. We're back on Friday. And then next week, back to 3 days a week. 1 week from this Wednesday, Peter Marr joins us. And a week from Friday, Eric Dahachuk. Thanks to Lyle Peterman. Thanks to our good friend Ryan Pike. And thanks to Jack, our outstanding producer. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, everybody.